live, then I need the mic. She said the other way around.
We are live.
Okay. It's 5:03, so let's get the meeting started with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We do have a quorum present, although two are currently absent. One may show, the other may show a little later, but we'll get started. The first item, as always, is the approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to look at that. Does anyone have any comments or corrections to make about it?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Okay, motion by Joe. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Lee. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Minutes are approved of the April 30th meeting. The next item are the matters under old business and budget ideas. Chief, you want to talk about?
Yeah, budget ideas. Every year, we're in budget talks. Currently, we're paying stipend of $50 a member. All rosters are now turned in. I was waiting on some admin tax forms. I want to make sure all the payrolls go out at the same time. They have been at $50 for quite some time per meeting. You should be getting checks for the ones you've had since we've been a merit commission. And then you'll start getting them every meeting moving forward. I will need to pull off a roster. That's what I didn't print off. I'll print off a roster and have you guys sign that before we leave to make sure that we get that signed, those rosters, or to make sure your name's on it for payroll. We had agreed in the past that we have a legal line item. We'll continue that idea that we will provide legal. It'll come out of our legal line item already for the township and the department. We will have an independent attorney assigned to the board that is familiar with merit. As we discussed in the early meetings, I'll have Bellamy for us. The union has their attorneys that they use should they need them for any employee. So everybody will be independently represented. Yours was more for matters of order and how it works and the cross-examination, and then we would bring a court reporter in. Not knowing what that budget is, just having money sitting stagnant with the tightening of budgets. I don't want to do that. We have a line item that we will pay for it, and it will be able to be paid for, and that's just cost of doing business. All paper and all that, I don't expect you guys to store or manage, but you will always have access to things. We are going through and cleaning up the emails. I've made those for at least 3 of you. The other 2 I need to make them for. And then any questions on how to use those we can go through. Are there any other budgetary concerns you guys have that you want to bring up with regards to the stipend or anything else or any matters of business? So we can keep that business as usual and we're good, and that's what we'll plan on doing. So we will budget for a meeting a month at the $50 rate for each of you. That way, if we call special meetings, we've got appropriate budget and all that. Hopefully, we're not doing monthly business, but if we need to, we'll be ready for that.
Okay, sounds good. The review of job descriptions tabled.
Last meeting, we tabled that. We worked on access, and you read the program with the board. We can go over it in a meeting, or we can hold a special meeting for education, and then provide username passwords. I talked to the company. I sent you guys links. Have any of you clicked on that? The links I sent in the email. Okay, so you have the policy manual now. You have access to all of it. Everything we have in job descriptions. Up in the search menu on that, when I looked at it, it is fundamentally broken down to the job or to the policy manual only. So there's a search bar in the top right. When you click on policy stat, any words you want to look at, if it's lieutenant, orders of arrival, captain, battalion, anything you want to look at, you can go in there and read. So you have access to all the job descriptions, all the policies. If I reference the name of a policy, you can search it if you want, and you'll find the name of that policy, click on it, and that policy comes up for you. We can do an education on it. You guys can come in 2 at a time because that's within quorum on your own time during office hours, or we can have a special meeting and do a training for everybody, or do it whenever I plan on having Bellamy come in and do an overall education here in the next quarter or 2. And when he does that, we can go over policy stat as well. Whatever you guys want, you can request.
Any thoughts, guys?
I can come in and
Anytime you want, we can go through it for sure.
Yeah, let's go that, and maybe you don't have to come in, or one doesn't have to come in, but I think I'd have to come in.
Whatever you want to do, we can go through it. Myself or any of the staff, we can go through it. We can make sure we're good.
Okay.
Yep. Just to make sure you know where things are at, you can read them.
Yeah.
personnel rules is the same, correct?
Yeah, personnel rules, that's within our policy program. So you guys want to look at the job descriptions, having personnel rules, we have everything. It's all in there, our SOGs, orders, or even things you don't have purview on, you have access to look at. That way, if those terms or those ideas ever come up as a violation or gross negligence, you can see what our practices are.
So regarding, this for notes, regarding the review of job descriptions, that was tabled. Are we doing anything with that tonight?
The job descriptions as they were, we went through and grandfathered over and said that we would like to be able to at least look at them. And that was getting you access to policy staff. That's where they're all at. The names of them and everything are in there, and we're going to go through that tonight whenever we talk about evaluations. And any questions you have with the job descriptions is fine, but in our initial meeting when we organized, got everything taken care of, we're saying we're keeping the job descriptions as they previously gone, grandfather them in. Any changes we do to a merit job description, we have to bring before the board before that change is effective.
Because you did send out copies
Of job descriptions.
Of job descriptions.
I did, and that created confusion in the first meeting because we were trying to decide if they were just, because you had asked to review them, I gave you copies and said these are for approval or review. I think the words I used in the agenda versus the intent of providing them were different. Now you have them electronically, you can look at anything anytime you want with access day and night.
But does the commission have to approve those officially?
It is the commission's job moving forward, if we do anything outside of what we brought into merit,
Okay.
your job is to
They were
approve them.
grandfathered in.
Yeah, we approved them when we organized because we were going to restructure the department.
Okay. So there's no action to be taken with this item.
No, other than it exists and we're business as usual, we just became merit. Any changes moving forward have to come before you guys for approval.
So do we want to leave this table or is it just go away? The item on the agenda says review of job descriptions table.
Right. I provided them for your review to look at, not action on, and that created confusion and everybody was up here discussing. And I think amongst yourselves, you chose to table it because I said, I'm not asking for your approval. I'm just giving them to you so you have them. Any changes moving forward, I would need, and that was when Bellamy was here and we talked about that one. I don't think there's any pending action on that, but we had tabled it, so it was noted like that, so I just rehashed what was in the previous minutes for this agenda.
So I'll just put in no action required.
Sounds good.
You got meeting topics of meetings for this?
No, these are all old business, things we talked about. I went right through the old business report, or the former business, but in old business. I'd asked you guys to approve processes, an officer application timeframe. That's over. We've done the application on the approved process. That's in the merit document. That's the start of it. We're working with the independent agency for the testing. They're in their review period now. They're receiving their books and literature and all those things. We had 7 applicants and that's moving forward. Employee status discussion, no further on old business. We were talking back then about, look at that. We talked about some employee status, people had resigned and so on and so forth. Yeah, we had some people that have turned in letters of resignation. You guys are aware, as a department, we've had a resignation of a probationary member recently. We've also had a resignation of an officer back to private, and we have just received letters of resignation from a paramedic in the last week. They're going into getting out of paramedicine altogether. So they're a legacy member here from their family. Everything positive in their email. We'll share that with you if you'd like. they're just moving on and moving into a whole different line of work and going out on a whim and just said they had been facing burnout and had recently changed jobs. Came here and said that's their realization and they want to leave with a good, under a good report. So that was their choice to do. So, and they've already accepted a job elsewhere prior to their resignation. So they have another week in that, I think, right? Yeah,
So that's 3 resignations.
that's correct.
Well, 2 that created vacancies.
That's correct.
Right. Okay, any questions or discussion on what the chief has advised? Hearing none, let's move to new business, the probationary employee reviews. And this has certainly been a topic of interest recently.
Okay.
You've given us, well, why don't you go ahead, Ben?
Yeah, so when I told you to put them up there, the top document you have should show unapproved probationary member. So we did a mock one for me, which has minimal information, but it has all the bullet points. So the document you should have should say Guardian tracking at the bottom, and it should have my name in the title at the top. Is that right?
Correct.
So in conversation with reviews on what we do, what we've had here is, we talk about what people can control. They can control their attitude and effort. Other than that, there's so many nuances you could evaluate somebody on. I don't care how you do the dishes. There are certain things I don't care about what you do, but I care about your attitude, I care about your effort. Everything else is per policy or per the wishes of the officer within policy. We've been doing a lot of officer development lately. Chief Huff brought a gentleman in from IFD, battalion chief, and one of his things was talking about the box. Whether you're to the far right of the box, the far left of the box, the top of the box, or the bottom, you're still within the box. That means you're within policy. You don't have to be the best at the top. You don't have to be the worst. You just can't fall out of the box. And that's what we try to manage. I thought that was a good analogy, and I think it's a good thing that started sticking with our current backup leaders that have evolved into those roles or aspire to evolve into them. It gave them that picture of where we're headed as an organization. The accountability is within the box. That's the policy manual. Nothing else matters as long as we stay within that realm. And that's what we lead to until they pop out, and then we have to manage. And the management is some of the behaviors I've sent to you in the last few weeks. So in doing that, whenever we do an evaluation, we look at attitude and behavior. As you can see here, Chief Phipps put me at an average. Emergency activities. He thinks I'm no better than average. Not emergency activities. No better than average, in the same way as supervisory. So he wants me to keep a closer eye on him and Chief Porter, and I'll do a better job at that, but I'm average at that as well. He didn't describe anything. He put nothing in the document body other than this is a test. I guess it's a test to see how I respond. No, but in all seriousness, this is what we do. So historically here, and with Chief Phipps and Chief Porter and Lieutenant Cranfield in the room, historically here, that is an evaluation right there. So the topics, whether it be emergency, non-emergency, those are the only 2 things we grossly do here. There's a lot of nuances and details within that. We do EMS, we do fire, we do extrication, tech rescue stuff, but we do emergency or non-emergency activities. So how are you around the firehouse and how are you on runs? Attitude and behavior, do you care? Do you have the passion? Those are things, attitude and behavior, that we do have policies for, but there are also those nuances that you're just trying to measure that are quite subjective. But again, you don't always have to be nice, but you better be on your game and know your job if you're not a nice person. But again, those all go into that. And all evaluations, I think all evaluations that all of you can attest to have subjectivity to them. Unless there's a start and an end and a finite task, there is no way to be 100% objective to anything. So the objectivity comes with that box, right? Are we staying in policy or out of policy? Or are we just making it up? And those are the things we have to manage when they hit our desk. And then if I have to present them to you, are we making things up or do they exist and are they real? And that's what we have to decide. Supervisory activities, that only applies to officers and those with rank over other individuals. Again, they have to be knowledgeable of their job. They have to understand the functions of their job. They have to be willing to manage and lead a group of people in and out of the firehouse. So if we give anything above or below a 3, it requires a document, a description on why we're saying that. If we don't know the why, it's pretty arbitrary. Historically, what people did is gave 3s to avoid the why. Now what's happening is, as we read them, and as we've talked about in depth the last 2 days, people are given the stories. The words exceptional are used, or poor are used. To me, exceptional and poor probably go above or below a 3. And then you turn the page and you look at the document fields, and they're 3s. So I have this exceptional person who's average, and I have this poor person who's average. Now, if I come before you, that's a heck of an argument. So we're trying to give that perspective to the employees, and the way we're trying to evolve this will be found on the next pages. But on monthlies, every probationary member gets a monthly. This is the minimal fields that they get. This is what we're looking at, with documentation attached to support why we said what we said. Yes.
One quick question. Where would training fall under your categories? Would that be-
Training, whenever they become probationary members, on firefighters, they graduated the academy and gone from recruits to probationary. The whole time they're probationary from hire date on, but they go from that recruit title to a probationary member assigned to operations. So it's probationary assigned to academy, probationary to operations. Whenever they come out of academy, Chief Huff is going to make sure that they have hit all the JPRs, they're very capable of their functions, and that they have the attitude and work ethic to move forward out in the companies.
My question
Go ahead.
was, you're saying that it falls under either emergency activities or non-emergency activities.
It falls under all of the above.
I
for
know
training.
you do ongoing training,
Oh, non-emergency, sorry.
so that would fall.
When
So
I
if
fill
some-
out, it lumps under non-emergency.
Non-emergency
Okay.
activities, yes. I thought you were asking, how do we know they were properly trained?
No,
I got you.
no, how do you
That's where I was
track?
heading, yeah.
Because you do a phenomenal job, that would be above a 3. In providing training for all classifications
Yes.
of your employees. And so if something comes up where someone really gets engaged in training, or during training fails
Right.
to pay
Two
attention.
other things I'll keep going to this here. They have a daily journal that they're doing, and they can say what they've done, good and bad, and that you can reflect back before you do the monthly. The other thing is they have a probationary handbook manual that they are assigned to do tasks. So there are certain tasks they have to, and they have to be signed off proficiencies on those. That's after the fact, after they're in the field. So they also know I'm training there. And those are all parts of what they review before they do the monthly. Where are you at? How are you doing? And those are what they can scan and attach to those documents.
So if I come in with a probationary member at the end of the year, make a recommendation, and they nearly finish their year, and we decide as an organization that they're not cutting it, this isn't going to do it, you might see an incomplete probationary handbook that may exist. They didn't go to the officers for the JPRs and trainings to exercise. Well, we just went blank back there on his feed. Actually, computers. We'll do something when we're on track. Sorry, guys. These are going to be our technical difficulties with moving forward.
With technology. Well, we are looking to upgrade this currently. It is in the process. Because to have to use 2 computers to do this is kind of goofy. So.
All right. You're coming back.
I got something up.
We didn't talk during the technical difficulties, so we're good. All right. And so, we're good. So,
So basically,
where was I?
you have somewhat of a daily tracking sheet, and that
Yes.
plugs into your monthly. And does that plug into like a performance appraisal at the end of the year? Or every-
Yeah, we'll get to that on the next page here, but, so what'll happen is if I come to you with this at the end of the year, or at the end of their probationary time and ask for them not to be appointed, which for a probationary firefighter or medic, that's what we would do. They either are cutting it or they are not. At that point in the statute, which I know you've read, but in the statute as we go through, it states at the recommendation of the department, the board will either agree or disagree to appoint them permanently or not appoint them. There is no right to be heard for them or anything else. They don't have a right to a hearing. They're probationary. That's the firefighter medic new hire. Now, we'll move on to other areas with promoted employees where that's different, and we'll get to that on the subsequent pages. So, like Chief said, Chief Hibb said, you have the dailies, you have the documentation that goes along with it, and the reason, if you look at the bottom of this page, it shows the signatures and the approvals. And it also says up top that this is an unapproved probationary member. So that'll come to me as the employee being evaluated. I have to acknowledge that I know about this. If there were comments, those comments, and this can't be sent forward to me until I've sit down and verbally discussed it with the employee. That'll be documented as well. Then it goes to the employee for their approval. It'll show it's approved by them, and then it moves forward. So the footprint's completed there, so we're not just doing documentation without anybody's approval or their acknowledgement. So when these documents come to you, it'll show that they have approved it, which means they had to log into the system, look at it, and hit submit. And they have an opportunity to come back and make other comments.
Which is on the timestamp at the bottom. You can see when I created that, when I
Yeah.
printed it, when I opened it, like it does. It's a nice system for that because it's tracked all the way through every time somebody touches the document
Yeah.
and looks at it.
That was my question. So the employee does have a section on there
Absolutely.
to make comments.
Yes. And we,
And they are encouraged to make comments.
if they have anything. And say they have the probationary, like book, one of the reasons they may not finish the book is if they were absent too much to get it done or other issues or whatever. Possibilities.
Which doesn't always happen, but it can. So the next page, that's all stapled together, says Washington Township Employee Performance Evaluation. This is a blank one. This I would like you guys to keep right now for consideration at the conclusion of this conversation. I'm not gonna go through this piece by piece. I just ask you to review it. And then at the end, I want your input for where we're moving forward. So currently what will happen is the document I just talked to you about, those will be kept every month, along with the documentation that happens daily by the officer and the crew. And then it becomes a culmination where they review the employee page by page on this document that I gave you. Near the back of this, there's an area for them where you say to the employee, and there's an area where the employee can write down what their goals and objectives are moving forward. Again, the employee can make comments and is encouraged to on these documents. Everybody physically signs these, and these are scanned into the system as an attachment. So anytime I pull out their monthly reviews, then I move to their final review. The battalion chiefs will have these attached to it.
And how often is the period of evaluation?
1 year. 1 year, and that is not to be more or less than 1 year from date of appointment. And that's also in statute for probationary employees, both hired and promoted.
But this document is for non-probationary?
Those documents are happening at the end of their
At the
probationary
end of the
period.
probationary
Where
period.
they
only.
become, yeah,
It's both officer and regular employee. There's just sections that are not filled out, but it's not, if it's a regular employee. It's,
mhm. This is essentially them aging into non-probationary status. If we fill this out and it's negative on the cumulative score on the back page, it'll say overall performance, that's where you give an average score. If that average score is less than 3, or they need improvement, or it's unacceptable, definitely unacceptable, I'm bringing them to you prior to, in a special meeting prior to them hitting that 1 year. So their 1 year is it August 17th or 19th? What is that date? The 19th? So August 19th was the first day of their employment here. So on August 19th of this year, it's 1 year. Well, this has to happen before that date.
Yeah.
Because once they cross that line, they automatically age in, and that's statute, and they're part of us. At that point, the due process is the due process no matter what. Appeals, rights to be heard, court, all that. So all of our battalions right now are currently collecting all the probie handbooks. They're reviewing them for completeness. They're giving them their final scores. They're putting them through their final paces for anything missing. We have time right now to make sure they get their JPRs in and their skills in. And probably within the next week or two, we'll be hearing what their recommendations are for the employees.
How many?
We had 17, then we started class with 16. Through class, we lost one that we had, chose to part ways with. We finished class with 15, and right now we're at 14. So,
So how much, I'm just wondering if this shouldn't be standardized where you take it after 11 months. Because if the person is not, you're gonna make a recommendation, I know from the conversations we've had previously, that you need time for notification.
there is, yes. So what's happening is they're happening in the 12th month. So we're into that 12th month right now with a few weeks left, and these are being completed now across, I think, all 3 shifts. I know Besser's doing these
They're
shifts.
due, so B shift specifically, they're due to me the first shift of the month. So for B shift this month, that's August 1st. So I will have them on August 1st. I will turn them in. I have till the 10th, but I typically have them ready the next shift. And then Chief Porter is then allowed to review and go over them. And then that still gives you a week and a half, 2 weeks if there is any problems. But for the most part, by the time we get to the annual evaluation, it's an accumulation of several monthlies. So it shouldn't be a drastic picture that's different. It's just more detailed. It's more encompassing. It gives the opportunity to talk about fine tuning your role as a firefighter now that you are no longer probationary. Because there are certain, I don't want to say allowable mistakes, but when you're new to anything, you're going to make common mistakes. You're going to make simple mistakes. Minor mistakes, right. Understandable mistakes. That's
It's a learning
great way to say it.
experience.
Yes, you're learning on the job, and it's a very dynamic job. But by the end of the year period, we should be able to go back and accumulate the scores from all of the monthlies to formulate this yearly, and then just fine tune, here's our goals. That's why the goals and aspirations are on there for them, because the following year, I think it's section 5, it gives you the opportunity to go back to last year's annual evaluation and revisit the goals. Hey, how'd you do on were you able to get that instructor class done? Did you do this? And then you're constantly checking and fine tuning, what are your new goals? How did you do last year? It allows us to continue that annual process, even though right now it's more suited for just the probationary.
All of these monthly reviews and the documentation that the officers are supposed to be doing are followed by remedial training. So it's
So
just,
they get a poor score in
it's
one
documentation. You get a poor score, they work with that individual remedially in-house by doing hands-on stuff to fix that problem. And then it's reviewed again. And then it's documented again. So it's a paper trail along the way while they're out in the companies of, are they really getting it or are they not, and what areas is that?
Is this no, I noticed on this first page, it says guardian training. So is this pretty much a CAN program that you bought, or?
It is a program we bought that we customized that does have canned parts in it, yes.
So is this the first time using this specific form?
This form, no, this has been a form, it's my first time using it. It's Avon's form they've had.
Okay.
Did you have this back when you guys were here too? Yeah.
So this was grandfathered in as well with everything else when we switched from the
What-
safety board.
What I'm gonna tell you here is this was found by me today.
Was what?
Because they gave it to me today. I didn't even know where this was.
Oh.
So yeah, I found this today. I'm gonna say as we go through this, there's some updating that needs done, and that's what the next pages are for. So,
And that's similar to the one they get in the academy, because they have reviews in the academy as well. So it's not something they're not used to going from the academy to the street. It's just a continual evaluation.
Do you do a periodic sort of just check or review of the process forms themselves? Hey, anyone have any thoughts of something that hasn't been included that needs to be, or something changed or whatever?
That's where we're
We
sitting
probably do
today.
that informally anyway, but,
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at now.
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Where we're heading here, we've had, well, I'm gonna say Chief Phillips has had these for a while. And then I asked him to adapt them to each job description because he had a good idea on paper that expanded on some ideas and some concerns from other lieutenants that they wanted above and beyond the regular approvals. So that's where we're in the information seeking phase, because now everything in statute, now that we're merit, says these reviews should come from the board. So whatever you say is it's something else we grandfathered in. It's not something we have, and it's a tool we use right now. So what I hope to do today is, because we're ending the probationary period, is I want to stay with what we have, not change the target at the end of the probationary period, continue what we're doing for the officers that are in the probationary phase, which includes Lieutenant Cranfield and a few others. We're done at that point. Any new classifications moving forward, because this is a system everybody's used to, they're familiar with. Now we make considerations moving forward into our next meeting on how does everything look moving in the future. So that's what these are.
So that's what the next documents are, is only
Yes,
for
sir.
the future.
These next documents are things to take into consideration from input, from conversations had on A shift, today on B shift. I'll have similar conversations tomorrow on C shift, but our battalions do a pretty good job talking with one another. So I'm quite certain that the input from them is going to be very similar as a department, because the idea is this: the professionalism and growth. We want to move forward. We want to keep things moving that we're starting to build as a team. The things come from fire training, the things come from EMS training, organizationally where we're heading. It's just the professionalization of the department. We've said that a number of times in here. Policies need to be cleaned up. We know that. Job descriptions, we need to revisit some of them, but we'll do that and bring them to you in the future meetings. Now what we're looking at is member evaluations, which are required under merit biannually. So those have to be done twice a year, but probationary members, those have to come from the input of the board or the commission. So that's what I'm looking at here, and that's why I'm putting these before you. I feel like if I come in and, you guys have a fire background, you don't. If you come in and give me an institutional evaluation and we sit here and discuss for hours on why that doesn't work in our realm, it's a waste of time. So I feel like we have to give this input, because not everybody's professional, an industry professional. So we take this from subject matter experts, put it before you, and say, here's what we need to know about a probationary member. And then here's what we want to know at the end. So page 1 on probationary member evaluation, you look at attitude, effort, but it has a description. And then the scores, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Instead of just saying somebody's average, a 3 at the top, you'll see says standard, makes occasional minor mistakes. You're right here on this document here. Should be the next one in line there.
It's the very bottom one.
Is it? Okay, so I flipped one, I'm sorry. Probationary member, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
there we go.
Now we're on the same page.
So I put yours in an order, obviously mine are the same, so. We'll start with probationary members since they're the lowest, but all the scores are very similar on every one of these documents. 5 exceeds, 4 is above average, rarely makes mistakes, 3 standard, makes occasional minor, 2 below average, inconsistent, regularly has issues, occasionally makes major mistakes. Number 1 needs improvement, does not perform as required. Essentially, if we're getting 1s, we've identified a don't care situation, because they will have all been given the same tests and the same training. And when they come out of the academy, we have 2 highly qualified people saying they're ready and they made it out of the academy. So nobody's being allowed to skate through. We've demonstrated that in this last academy, and we'll do it in others as needed. The idea is not to be before you guys. But again, attitude. Do they exhibit a good attitude? Effort. Do they show effort required to succeed? Participation. Are they participating as expected in all facets of emergent, non-emergent activities? Performance. Does the member complete tasks, objectives, and assignments consistent with training? These are things that every month we should be able to have a gross answer to it's a little more drilled down than just a couple categories. And this was presented as input from some of our officers on going, we don't want to spend hours per month on top of the hours per month training, just filling out a piece of paper. But we need to have these with their descriptions and their comments, and then we can look at their average scores. Are they in the box? Are they at 3? Are they at least meeting the expectation? You can have some 4s, you can have some 2s, you can have some 5s. You might hit an occasional 1 where you're just not good at something. But it can't be the norm. We gotta average out and make sure that they're showing improvement and have a plan forward.
So on
I think
this,
this document helps us with that.
yeah, on this, you've got the first 4: attitude, effort, participation, performance, and then you have overall.
Yeah.
And I guess the question is, it would seem because you have overall down there that it's more than a mere average of the previous 4. Is that accurate or not?
I'm gonna defer.
As you,
Overall, what do you think?
I mean, because in looking at this, if you have a separate, I mean, it's easy enough for anyone to figure out the average, right? There's only 4, so even someone as poor math as me could do that. But since you've got a separate overall, I'm just thinking, sometimes the average, I mean, obviously you're not gonna have someone with an average of
Exactly 4.
of 4, then come in an overall 2. I mean, but there might be just a slight different number, and I just was curious.
and that's the intention. It allows the evaluator to make those determinations. If you have a 5, a 3, a 3, and a 1, then your score is 3. But if you have a 5, a 4, a 3, and a 3, your score is not 3, it's 3.5.
Yeah.
So where do you consider that employee above average? Do you consider them to be at standard? How do you prove that with your documentation? The whole point to me, and when I originally created this, is when I was running the recruit classes. It was, I had migrated from my position as lieutenant and was asked to take over PT and then also running the part, and there really wasn't an evaluation tool outside of my opinion. We had recruits that, in my opinion, were not meeting a standard, but we didn't have anything on paper that said, here's where you need to be. So this was kind of creating a standard, and the reason we were discussing it today is because we wanted to bring it forward so we could get input and understand, because the whole, as an officer, what I want, what my guys want, is a simpler, streamlined process that allows them to be very effective with their management of people. Because right now the system is working, Guardian Tracking is doing what it's doing, but we're not understanding it right. So right now there's a coaching side for the officers that needs to occur, and it is occurring. But part of it is, if we have the opportunity to improve the system, because we're now operating under this merit system, why not put out more information and see what we can come up with?
So things like the overall, that was a conversation he and I had, was the same question we had today. It doesn't have to be there. It was what was put on paper. This is where our brains are at in the brainstorming. These are just brainstorming documents to say, let's come up with the final product. We'll continue to work. Any input you guys have now that you have the information, feel free to communicate it. And then whenever we come in and have a working document at the next meeting to say, here's where we're going forward and this is our standard of evaluation, we'll get there. This isn't saying, please make it this way.
Okay,
Just ideas for each thing,
and that was
discussion.
There was a question I was gonna get back to even on the first, I mean, are you needing approval tonight at any of the original probationary document up there?
We can do this. So the one that we have and the annual that we have that we currently use and have used since 2006 at least.
Yes, 2006
And 2010 for your class. So we would like the permission to continue using these. That way it has come from the board and then
Right,
where we're heading moving forward. So yes.
okay. So that we're clear that, and on that category, you're talking about the first, is it
The first two documents, yeah, it's our current monthly member reports that we do and our current Washington Township Employee Performance Evaluation for fire.
And so the understanding being that, particularly because we're so close to the term period here,
Mhm.
we want to move forward with this, seeking approval of those documents that have been in use.
Mhm.
Keep in mind, as we continue to review these things, we may change those going forward. Is
That's
that
correct.
accurate? Okay. So unless you've got anything further on that part, I will entertain a motion I guess it would be to approve the unapproved probationary member monthly.
Well,
Or
That's
what
just
would
called
you-
the probationary member monthly. The reason it says unapproved is because I haven't reviewed it.
Okay.
It was a sample for you. No, that's just to show you how the system works.
I didn't know if it
No,
meant you
no.
weren't approved.
No, sir,
So Chief, this is something you've been using, everybody's good with it.
100%.
Correct, okay.
We are utilizing that for every evaluated tool that we currently have goes through Guardian Tracking.
I'll make a motion that we accept the document for probation member monthly tracking sheet.
I'm going to amend that just to say rather than accept, we approve.
Approved, yes. Yeah.
Monthly and yearly.
And the yearly one as
Do
well.
both together. We can do both together.
So the motion is to approve the probationary member monthly and the employee performance evaluation documents.
Correct, as presented.
Sir.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I tried to initiate it.
No, you did, I think that's what it will show. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No nays, so those two documents are then approved going forward unless and until we change them in the future. And then these other documents are all just in the process.
These other documents are what I would like you guys to consider moving forward for each merit position. What you'll notice in probationary, and this is, I won't go through them all because I will be here all night. During probationary monthlies, as you go through each one of these, so the member is the easiest, it just has those categories. Staying streamlined in these or similar categories such as this helps. It helps with time, it helps with them staying on the street, it helps with them staying in the books and moving forward and not buried behind a computer. So then at the end of their monthlies, and they do the annuals, you have all these officer evaluation, engineer evaluation, field training officer evaluation. You have all these to look at for each of the promoted members. So you have the probationary member and then regular members. We'll have the regular firefighter review put together too. I don't have that one in here. I don't think I printed it. So, but again, it's not, I can send it to you guys. We're not taking motions tonight. We're not saying these are the official documents. We're saying here's a direction. But what we would do is just picking one of the multiple I gave you. Which one's next in your list? Field
Engineer.
training engineer officer.
Engineer.
Engineer. So if you look at the engineer one, you have apparatus management and then multiple questions underneath, drilling it down. You have training and then multiple questions underneath to drill it down. You have fire ground emergency scene performance and then multiple categories. Then you have clerical reporting and reporting duties. There's paperwork, there's programs, they gotta put checks in, all that, and then we drill it down. And then you have their average score on the back. As their monthlies, when they're probationary engineers, all of those things will be in consideration, but I think it would be a gross apparatus management, 1 through 5. Training, 1 through 5. Their fire ground emergency scene performance, 1 through 5. Clerical reporting duties, 1 through 5. Then their ongoing annuals would be all of
More
this.
breakdown, yeah, okay.
So the probationary part would be high-level categories. Are you performing in this gross capacity? And then we're looking at all facets of your job, and then our officers and the people evaluating should know that job description, holding them accountable to it within that box. Then as we move forward, are they continuing to do all these little detailed things year after year? And this is done on the biannual basis per the requirement of the merit law. So probationary member kind of gives you that idea. Go ahead.
FYI.
Yeah.
The second page,
On engineer, yeah.
it's officer, it should be engineer throughout.
Or you put them in the wrong order, but actually the third page. First page is the engineer, second page is.
Does the officer need, that could happen.
Officer.
Yeah.
We were printing a lot of stuff out and it wasn't, they're supposed to be stapling it and collating as it went. And I don't know what happened, but it wasn't doing it. So we started doing it ourselves.
Who do we evaluate on that test?
I'm not gonna tell on him, I'm not gonna tell him.
I
I did give him a 3, you know. Six, need improvement.
No, you guys, that might just be a question, because these were templated and put together as it describes each job description, because we want to keep these as similar as possible, right? So when you look at these, an engineer is over the apparatus and the safety of the people within it. The officer is responsible for the people in the whole operation. The FTO is responsible for training and precepting, but they're not managing people, they're managing systems and processes and things like that. So they each have uniquely different capacities on the rig. The officer's always in charge, everyone else answers to them, they have functions that they have to do, and those are merited positions, and they need to be evaluated. So the firefighter, once they get past being a probationary member, each of those high-level fields will just be drilled down in general to attitude. What do we expect on attitude within policy? Effort, what do we expect out of effort within policy? Chief Huff had made some good conversations and talking to the employees, because the development that we're doing, he brought here, and he had developed it for the city and adapted it and brought it here for us. Do you have perspective on these reviews you want to share? Because I'm open to it. You've got a lot of good insight on things you've shared with our people.
No, just having a actual class for the officers on how to review and what our expectations of what we want these forms to be filled out as, right? If they don't have the knowledge of that, or they've never reviewed anyone before as an officer, it's all over the board.
Yes.
History is not history, is not history.
I can contest, it gets confusing at times being a new officer.
So bringing all these officers in on a shift level and going over it piece by piece, and then what the expectation is, showing what a bad employee is, what an average employee is, what an outstanding employee is, gives them the mindset of, and I don't want them to be the same. I want them to review these people on their own bias, but there has to be a level ground too.
There has to be some uniformity in what 3Bs are.
And that's something we're looking to do by shift.
And have the easy A prof given all A's
Yeah.
when someone else is giving.
And that could happen, and they do rotate to an extent, but like he said, he and I were talking, and I just read a couple reviews that came across this past week. We had a pretty big influx of them, and as you scroll through them, it's like, those are really good words. And you flip the screen, and it goes, oh, they're just average. The story is a really good story, or really good documentation, but we still give them 3s. Contrary to what their experience was coming up early on, where they got 3s, so nobody had to do the extra work. People are doing the extra work, they're writing stories, but then they're still giving 3s, because that's the habit. And it's knowing what those mean. What does a 4 mean? What does a 5 mean? And as you look at this document, I think this is the start of that. When you look at the scores at the top, a 5 isn't just average, it's the standard. We just have to hit the standard. That's the expectation. You want everybody to be high level, but they're not. In any organization, you're not going to have everybody there. So if you're hitting the standard, that's acceptable. Now, what is our standard? That's what we set through training. That's what we set through vision of the department. That's what we set through the professionalism of the department as we move forward in every aspect of what we do.
So, do you anticipate then wanting to seek approval of these other forms at the next meeting?
I want to evolve our current process and include ideas from these other forms. And as you guys go away, if you have time or you feel compelled, understand that whatever we present should have input from you all, because it is essentially
ours.
yours.
The statute says it's ours.
It absolutely does. And so we would just like to set that standard,
Yeah,
okay?
Great.
And we want to have input. This is some of our input. We'll do the education of the officers, do the education of the department, but then we need to have the standard put in front of them when the education's done. And it may be more than just 3 fields.
So Chief, just to review, like somewhat a chain of command. So the officers review the engineers and the firefighters and the probationary.
Correct.
Who reviews the officers? The battalion chief? And who reviews the FTOs?
The officer. The FTOs are a paramedic, is what that is.
Right.
So they're,
Do they get another level? The officer's not a paramedic, do they have another level checking those standards?
no, so the FTO, Chief Weiniger would set the standards on what their criteria is. but she puts out the trainings there to execute the trainings, whether the officers or paramedic or an EMT. We all participate in each other's trainings. So the standard and the presentation of training and the completion of training, that's the expectation of the FTOs. As we move on and we go out and do live burns. For the fire side, we have people that Chief Huff and Chief Porter have trained to do the live burns in our training camps. They come out and perform those for other departments. They come out and manage our stuff. They also help manage our trainings whenever we do them. Well, the same thing on the EMS side. The FTOs have shown a proficiency. They can precept other paramedics from other areas or schools. They can precept our own paramedics as we try to get them cleared. If they go to school and want to evolve from EMT to medic, they're precepting our EMTs as they go out to the shifts. They have a specific function that's defined, and whether the officers are paramedic or not, they're just making sure the trainings are getting done. They're not making sure that they're meeting all the clinical criteria. if
The
that makes
clinical will
sense.
get your EMS chief for that.
That's correct.
To get evaluation.
Yes, sir.
You are aware, if this works, it's gonna be harder to be a 5 2 years from now, because your standards are gonna go up.
And they should.
Well, but I'm saying to be aware of that if this evaluation process works and your people are becoming more professional, your expectations have to go up. If they don't, you're saying, well, you've had all this training, all this experience, you work as a team, it's all great, but we're gonna measure you by what we were doing 5 years ago.
So that,
You're looking for
That is-
excellence.
that was the one thing that we discussed that I found doing this in recruit class. I would have a recruit come to me in week 7 and be like, I used to score 19s and 20s on my evaluation. Why am I getting 18s? That meets the standard. My expectations of you have gone up. It allows that face-to-face communication. No, you're not getting worse. Your expectation, what I expected out of you on day 1 was to show up on time, not throw up, and complete the day. It's very basic. Now I expect you to go into that burning building with a hose line, manage a problem, and come out safely. It's not the same. You are correct. It has to go up. It's explaining to the officers through regular coaching how your expectations need to improve. And I think we're doing that with our general meetings and our officer meetings and trying to improve things. It's just getting the group to migrate together, getting all the baby geese to follow in the same pathway. And I think we can do it. We have to continue to fine tune these processes. And as I told him in my email when I sent this to him, I am not married to this idea. It was just something I had on paper. I'm looking for input. I'm looking for a place to springboard to, because I want to continue to improve and I want the department to continue to be better.
So as we move into the next steps, I'll just go with the. What's that?
I said, that's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I mean,
not a problem,
to your
is it?
point, right? I think there's a story to tell here, to your point. I don't know of many organizations that, unless they just have complacent leadership, that looks at a challenge of, hey, that means you're gonna just continue to get better, and they go, oh man, we better rethink this. Right, we wanna do that, and that's the goal, but otherwise, why do we exist? So, as we move forward and look at this holistically, just from people in the room, and Tony, this time I won't pick on you. But, Chief Ups and I had a conversation yesterday with the A-shift group, the officers were in here, and he walked in a little late. What's nice is I'm in the middle of the conversation. He walks in, coming back from some appointments he had, sits down, joins the conversation, and the message is the same, without even knowing what's been said. But the other part is they're trying to wrap their head around what's a 3, what's a 5, what's a 4, and all this. And we're just kind of in the infancy of talking about that, knowing we need to do a class. Does a guy who comes in at 6:30 for a 7 o'clock shift perform better than a person coming in at 6:50 for a 7 o'clock shift? They're still meeting the standard, right? There is no penalty for that if they're both dressed at 7 a.m. But an officer may feel otherwise, and they're allowed to be that free thinker. They're allowed to have those expectations. Now, to that point, we move over to Chief Phipps from Chief Huff. And while he was in probie class, he showed up every day at 6:15, 6:30, you said? He's in every day, but he kept getting threes. I'm on time every day. Why wouldn't that be a 5?
Yeah, I missed a day and on time every day. What does it take to get to 5? Maybe give me an answer what it takes to get to 5. Those are issues, right? And then also if you have the problem, make sure you're getting corrective action on how to fix the problem. And it's a two-way street. What do I need to help you? And it's accountability, right? I got to provide you the right tools, right time frame, and they have to be responsive. And that's where it helps in the monthlies build a recheck on those and go back.
Then we move over to Chief Phillips, who's one of our 3 battalion chiefs. And he gets his 3s in 2010, 4 years later after Chief Phillips. He found out what it takes to get to a 5. When everybody made their beds, he fluffed all their sheets, left them on their pillow, and got a 5 for non-emergency activity finally. But again, that's just a peek into firefighter life,
That
right?
was, so, to the argument, that was my last day on probation, and I thought I had to do something, special for the guys, so that's what it was. I made all their beds, mints on their pillows, and then pranked them the next day when I was clear and they couldn't do anything. Give and take, yin and yang, it all.
That reminds me of Officer and a Gentleman when he's shining everyone's buses.
But as you end an email, whenever I asked him, instead of reinventing the wheel that already existed when he showed, I brought him in to have the same conversation we had yesterday. And Chief Phillips and I are sitting there with him and we're talking and, hey, here's where we're heading, here's what we're thinking about. He goes, open my folder. I've already got all this. I'm like, okay, send it. And that's what you have. Instead of reinventing the wheel and going, hey, it's mine, and involve everybody, right? But when he sent it, to your point, to end it with that, if we're not getting real answers and real data, it allows for stagnation and mediocrity to seep in. We're moving forward, and I hope we keep that momentum for a long time, C5. That's the goal of the organization, right? And it's not just my goal. It's not a, hey, look at what I want to do thing. This is a real thing on culture change, and we got to change culture.
And I think you'll notice that with my 30-year career, and I'm sure the chief has, as administrations change and people change, this is always adopted or adjusted.
Adjusted, it is. Oh, whole vision can fall apart or get better. It just depends on who's next.
Well, this will get eroded
Okay.
by either too much subjectivity, where you're not having the overall conversations
Mhm.
to make sure that what A shift means by a 3 and what B shift means by a 3,
Sure.
that there is at least enough common ground that you can continue to operate together, because even though you have your designated shifts, you still are gonna end up working on series together.
You can have an officer out there, his feeling is, I never get a 5. No one is perfect.
That was, my first officer, that's very first evaluation, you'll never get a 5.
Yep.
So, I had the attitude, I'll figure out what I have to do. Apparently it was warming up all of their sheets and putting them on the pillow. That's how you got one. But I think he gave it to me as a joke because he also thought the prank the next day was really funny. I can't say that because we're live streaming.
Or what it was, but it was.
Again, yes, and that's the subjectivity that we have to remove by getting everybody on the same page, at least within the framework of understanding where we're going.
So use this moving forward. I would encourage meetings over the next few months. I'd like to talk to you guys, like you to, we'll be having our push-in ceremony for the new engines. I'd like you to come out and see Station 5, be involved, be around, and let's have these discussions.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much to everybody. Next item, wishes to be heard. Public comments? No.
We had some.
Appreciation by fire staff.
Yeah, so fire staff, obviously we've changed our logos. Yes, Chief Phipps has his on. We're moving into with everybody else. And Chief Huff grabbed his stuff today, but we also put them on our challenge coins. So I want to present these to you guys, and thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Very nice.
Sure you guys got your coins, so thank you, and thanks for what you guys do.
So, yeah, I noticed the shirts, so that's pretty cool.
Step one, right? Just rebranding, because everybody here calls us Avon Fire. When you look up here, you have the Washington Township Avon Fire Department. Over here, you have the Avon, Indiana Avon Fire Department. Over there, you have the Avon Fire Department. And, well, we got to decide what we want to be, because we're 3 different things just on 3 pictures in here. And we're always going to be a township department until we're not. The goal isn't to break away from that identity. It's just to get along with branding. Who are we? What are we? And what should symbolize where we stand? So We're Avon Fire. That's what everyone refers to us as. Everybody in our coverage area has either an Indianapolis or that name's taken, or an Avon, Indiana address. And whether you're incorporated or unincorporated, that's where we sit. Is Avon, Indiana. So
Black and gold.
we did. And now you have a bright gold and black there. So
Well, thank you.
with that,
Goes with the schools and everything else,
Yeah,
really kind
right.
of brings the community.
Yeah,
That's,
that's,
we serve the whole community, right?
Right.
So that's another thing.
with that change, what you'll see, and we were talking to town manager at Avon, they're gonna be rebranding as well within the next month and changing their colors to be consistent.
oh, good.
So
Yeah,
I think
I
you're gonna
wasn't
see the
aware
whole
of that.
town, from school to fire to town. being-
We're neither, so we talked, I was like, well,
Yeah.
that's not a coincidence, no, we got to do it first.
Yeah. But again, it's just about the unification of the area, right? So,
Board comments, those, anything? Well, I just want to thank you all for your input in putting this together. I know it's a long process, and just thanks for your continued work on all that. Our next regular meeting will be October 28th, 2025, and I'm just dawned on me that I have a trial that week.
okay,
It's a bench trial, but I don't know, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And with that, well, let me say one thing before I sign off here. Chief mentioned it at the beginning, and then we didn't do it. When you all spoke, other than Chief,
oh, coming up, I'm sorry.
I should have at least asked you to state your name so that it's clear on the record, and going forward, we'll try to have a way to do that, just so you know, I'm not trying to, but we all forgot about that. So, with that, at 6:04, we'll adjourn.
Now you'll have to give me one moment.
Do
because
a
I-
motion to it? Meeting adjourned.
I'm gonna declare it adjourned.
Yes.